A huge, warm internet welcome from UJIA. My name is Ben Shapiro, and I'm the chair of UK programming here in Manchester. I must say it does feel strange not being stood in front of the hundreds of you who usually come together for Yom HaZikaron to honor and remember Israel's fallen soldiers and victims of terror. Thank you to the team who made it possible for us to be online tonight. For more information on the other programming available online from across the community over the next few days of Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaut, we've listed this at www.ujia.org/YOMS. This will be shown at the end of the event. Over the last decade or more, at this time of year, we have hosted youth delegations from Israel. They have run programming in schools, in the community, and have worked hard for months in advance in preparation for a ceremony that we host on the eve of Yom HaZikaron. This year would have been no exception, and we are thinking of you all in Israel and hope that you are all safe and well. With the help of ever-improving streaming technology, over the years, we have also hosted speakers online from Israel. And in this way, I have been honored to interview some truly inspiring people. These include Israel Prize winner Miriam Peretz with her incredible message of strength through adversity, General Giora Rom, a decorated pilot shot down and captured in Egypt in 1967. And particularly relevant for this evening, Racheli Frenkel, the mother of one of the 3 boys kidnapped and tragically murdered in 2014. It is the incidents that followed this in 2014 that we will hear more about this evening. In the next 40 minutes, we will honor the memory of all of Israel's fallen soldiers and victims of terror. Tonight, we will honor their memories by hearing from one particular family whose sacrifice has spanned 3 generations, from the War of Independence in 1948 through to Operation Protective Edge in 2014. We will honor the fallen with the words of El Malei Rachamim, sung by Chazan Tzvi Weiss, the globally renowned Chazan from Jerusalem's Great Synagogue. And we will honor the memory of all our fallen brothers and sisters with the words of Sahar Sazgar, one of UJIA's own youth shlichim. Sahar works across the community with the schools, the youth movements, and our local shuls. Sahar completed his own military service with one of the IDF's elite fighting units only weeks before joining us for a 2-year shlichut. Sahar.
Shalom, everyone. My name is Sahar Sazgar, and I am the UJIA Shaliach in Manchester. Yom HaZikaron is the day that we all stand together to remember the fallen soldiers who gave their life to protect the Jewish state and sacrificed their souls for the Holy Land and for Am Israel. For this reason, this day is important for all the Jewish people around the world. Yom HaZikaron for me symbolizes the pain and sacrifice that comes along with our unity and determination to protect the nation that is our home, Israel. Jewish people around the world dreamed for more than 2,000 years for Zion. From the days of Abraham through to Herzl, to the starving, tortured men, woman, and child in Auschwitz-Birkenau, they all had one dream: Zion. And after so many years of dreaming, the wish has come true. Eretz Israel is here. We have built roads, houses and schools, grown fields and trees, a country flourishing with lives. We have succeeded to gain our independence. Standing behind all this is our strong army, protecting our home every day. Every single Jew all around the world is now able to come and touch the dream of Zion and be a part of the miracle that is the Jewish homeland. But for this miracle, we pay a big price. The ground of Eretz Israel is soaked in the blood of 23,816 young men and women who sacrificed their lives so that we, the Jewish people, will have a home. A country that we can feel safe and protected in. As soldiers, we return home for Shabbat, tired and hungry, with big, heavy, dirty bags on our backs, full of dirty laundry, but full of longing for the rest, and to finally give our moms a huge hug. These young people had families and friends that waiting for their return home. These young people will no longer get to open the front door of their home to the heartwarming smells of Friday night dinner and to the family they love waiting for them. These young people had dreams to go and travel the world, to go to university, start jobs and build family of their own. These young people no longer have the chance to achieve their dreams. Joining us for this ceremony is the tiny bit that we can do to thank these people, show our gratitude to them and their heartbroken families, to remember them and to tell them, Todah. The soldiers that don't have the opportunity to achieve their dreams anymore, but have helped us achieve our big dream, Zion, the state of Israel. Now let's all stand together for a minute of silence.
Thank you, Zohar. We are now honored to hear from Moshe and Zohara Haiman, live from their home in Efrat, Israel. They are dedicated parents. They have decorated IDF careers, and as you will hear, they have an incredible and inspiring outlook on life, despite their circumstances. At Israel's official state memorial ceremony for fallen soldiers and victims of terror in 2018, Prime Minister Netanyahu paid tribute to the incredible sacrifice of the entire Hyman family across 3 generations. Sacrifices of family members suffered right at the birth of the State of Israel. Moshe's personal sacrifices as an elite career soldier serving in the paratroopers, in Seret Matkal, and in the Shin Bet, Israel's security services overseas. And subsequently the loss of their son, Yuval, tragically killed in Operation Protective Edge in 2014. Moshe and Zohara have kindly offered to respond to some questions, so please feel free to post these on the live chat and we will pick just 2 or 3 to address before we hear from Chazan Weiss. Moshe, Zohara.
Good evening from Efrat in Gush Etzion, and thank you for the honor to speak to you tonight. Firstly, to introduce ourselves and our family, let me tell you a little about their experiences in the War of Independence. I would like to take you back to 1948. On the 1st of June 1948, Avraham and Leah awoke in Jerusalem to one of the worst mornings of their lives. 1:20 p.m., their 14-year-old son, Dov, was killed while he was closing the shutters of their shop in the wake of Jordanian bombing. A few minutes later, this young lady, named Chava, was killed as well. Hearing her mother's cries when Dov was wounded, she had ran outside. Chava was mother of 3 and she was carrying her 2 years old daughter, while she was killed, and she was also Dov's older sister. Half a year earlier, on the 11th of December 1957, another young man, an 18-year-old was killed while on the way to Kibbutz Kfar Etzion in the Nevi Daniel convoy, known also as the Convoy of the Ten, that was carrying ammunition and food to the besieged Kibbutz Kfar Etzion. All 9 of his companions were killed as well. The young man's name was Raphael, and he was the older brother of Chava and Dov. 3 days after Dov and Chava were killed, on the 4th of June 1948, another Haganah fighter was on his way to his mission. His name was Moshe Haiman, Israel Moshe Haiman, my grandfather, for whom I named. Just before he left the house, my grandmother, Miriam, asked him to stay at home. She said, "Moshe, you're 35-year-old and the father of 3. Are there some 18-year-old Haganah fighters to do your job?" He looked deep in her eyes and answered, "Miriam, not everyone must live till the age of 70. I have a mission, it's my responsibility, and I'm going to do it." He left the house and never came back. I would like you to take a moment and think about my grandfather's brother, Abraham, that we mentioned above, that lost his one and only brother, my grandfather, and 3 of his children within 6 months. 66 years later, on the 21st of July 2014, in the middle of Operation Protective Edge, another disaster struck our family, and Yuval, our son, was killed. But let us not get ahead of ourselves. So what has in fact bring us to speak to you? First, we feel that the story of our family parallels the story of the rise of the State of Israel. We believe that the way in which our parents raised us has also brought us here, as well as it brought Yuval to where he ended his young life. Despite this tragic end, we think that we would have not raised our children differently in any way. The values that we will discuss are, to our mind, the basis upon which we all must be raised, whatever our political views. We do believe that these values make us better people. As to the online conference, we see it a platform for strengthening the ties between Israel and the Jewish community abroad. I believe that this story will bring us closer together, and it is our hope that the values by which Yuval lived and died will, if only a little, bring to light the common ground we share, and will bring us nearer to one another.
So, as you already know, we are Zohara and Moshe Haiman. We are about 50 years old, live in Efrat, and parents of 4, Yuval, Zichrono Livracha, Arbel, Eshchar, and Aluma.
In October of 1987, I entered the IDF. I served in Sayeret Matkal, and near the end of my service, I moved to the Paratroopers Reconnaissance Unit as a commanding officer. After my army service, I joined the Israeli Security Agency and served there for 12 years, following by service in the IDF for another 12 years.
As Moshe, I also served as an education officer to unprivileged soldiers. Moshe and I are named after 2 young people that sacrificed their lives during the War of Independence. Moshe after his late grandfather, Israel Moshe Haiman, and I after Zohara Liviatov, one of the first Israeli woman pilots. We were both born to families that made Aliyah to the State of Israel from different countries, Yemen, Tunisia, Russia, and Germany. We were both raised in Jewish and Zionist families to develop the people of Israel, the state of Israel, to honor and respect any man. That's the way we raised our children, and that's the way we will raise our grandchildren. Yuval is our firstborn, was the firstborn son, grandson, and great-grandson, was surrounded his whole life with the stories and the values that our families lived by, stories of Holocaust survivors, and being a part of the rise of the state of Israel. Those stories led him to be willing to endanger his life for the sake of his friends, the citizens of Israel, and his family. Yuval grew up in Efrat in Gush Etzion, was a Bnei Akiva counselor, and volunteered every year in a summer camp called Hasadna for special needs children. He loved sports, particularly running and football. In high school, he was a football coach in an after-school program. When he finished high school, he attended the pre-army preparatory program in Lod for half a year, followed by another half a year in a similar program in Kibbutz Ma'ale Gilboa. After that, he entered the paratroopers division and completed the engineering corps training course, the squad leaders course with honors, acted as a squad leader at the paratroopers training base for several months, and then went to officer school, Bad Echad.
On the 21st of July 2014, a few minutes after 6 a.m., an alarm went off upon the infiltration of 12 Hamas terrorists into Israel about 700 meters from Sderot and Kibbutz Niram. The terrorists were planning two major terror attacks in Sderot and Niram, including kidnapping IDF soldiers and civilians. The terrorists wore IDF uniforms, meaning it was very hard to identify them as terrorists. The battalion commander's frontal force rushed to the scene in their jeep. There were Lieutenant Colonel Dolev Keidar, Sergeant Major Nadav Goldmacher, Warrant Officer Danny Kasahon, the sector's scout, and Yuval, who volunteers to be the battalion commander radio operator in this mission. When the jeep arrived to the scene, it was hit by an RPG missile, immediately killing Nadav the driver. Then a second missile was fired. Dolev, Danny, and Yuval jumped from the jeep and rushed at the terrorist. The scout was killed by the door of the jeep as soon as he got out. Dolev, the battalion commander, ran towards the terrorists who were on the other side of the road and was killed after a few seconds. And Yuval managed to take cover under a nearby tree. Despite being seriously wounded, continued the shutout against the terrorists, about 3 magazines, until he too was killed.
After he was killed in battle, and after a profound look at how he lived his life and how he acted in death, we can name 5 values by which he lived his life and by which he died. These principles emanate also from his writing and letters. In one of his letters, Yuval wrote, 3 values I hold: aiming for excellence, comradeship, and the fighter's spirit. The why, I call it. The first value is aiming for excellence. Always do the best that you can. Excel in your own merit and for yourself. If you can look in yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and tell yourself that you did your best, you are on the right path. The second value is the comradeship. This is what Yuval wrote about it, which we stressed to him in long talks we held on the subject before he entered basic training. Yuval wrote, as I have been told many times, We rush into combat not for the flag and not for the national anthem, but for the sake of our friends. The third value is the fighting spirit. Yuval used to say, turn every obstacle into a challenge and never give up. And he also acted like this.
In addition to these three values, Yuval held two others values that on our mind are the balance of those three that we mentioned above. And I'm talking about mutual responsibility and gratuitous love. In order to illustrate it, I would like to tell you two stories. First of all, this unconditional love that we talked about. You can see here, you can see the photo, the sleeping bag, the photo of the sleeping bag. So during the Shiva, one of his soldiers told us that once, on one of the most coldest and rainiest nights in the field, he found that his sleeping bag was soaked. Yuval did not hesitate, gave him his sleeping bag, and slept in his wet clothes with no sleeping bag. And these soldiers find out in the morning that what Yuval was doing. The other photo is a truck bus, and it's another example. It was an old man who paid us a visit also during the Shiva. Neither I nor Zohara knew him, and he told us that he used to be Yuval's platoon bus driver at the officers' school. He said that Yuval was one of only a few who greeted him every morning and stayed at the end of the day after everybody left the bus to help him clean it. So those values, the last one is, I think it's the most important one. And in a letter that Yuval was written to himself before entering the officers' training school, he wrote the following: "Why go be an officer? In short, I believe that I will be capable of leading those under my command successfully, and that now it is my turn to take my place in the long line of IDF commanders. In one word, I will call it responsibility. Remember what I told you about the last words of my grandfather? He told my grandmother Miriam, I have a mission, it is my responsibility and I'm going to do it. Not everyone must live till the age of 70. That's what I call responsibility. And Yuval grew up with the story about Dov, Chava, Raphael, and my grandfather, and acted like this in his life and death. Now I want you to take a look at the word responsibility in Hebrew. If you will read it letter by letter, you will find out that the first one is ach, which means brother. Treat your friends like brothers. Add another letter and you will get the word acher, which means the other. Don't you forget the different one, the one who doesn't look or behave or think like you do. Treat him well, like your brother. Add another letter and you will get the word acharai, which means after me. And that's the common order in the IDF. You go first, then your soldiers will follow you. Don't send them on a mission you wouldn't do by yourself. Add another letter and you will get the word acharav, which means after him. Always be careful to choose the right people to follow. And finally, as you can see, the word achrayut starts with an aleph and ends with a taf, which parallels from A to Z, meaning if you start something, it's your responsibility to finish it. I would like to thank you all again.
Thank you.
For the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and we wish you Chag Atzmaut Sameach.
Thank you, Moshe. Thank you, Zohara. Before we hear from Chazan Weiss, are you still okay to take a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
So firstly, let's start with one actually about your own names. You spoke a lot about Yuval, of course, but you were both named after two people who gave their life for their country. How much did this play a part in how you grew up?
I think it works both ways. Let me give you an example, tell you a little story about it. 3 years ago, my little brother Amichai and his wife approached us with a question. They told us that they are going to have a baby and asked for our permission to name him after Yuval. Now, as someone who is named after his grandfather, I know exactly how it feels. I still remember what was going in the eyes of my grandmother Miriam when she was calling me. It was the name of her husband, of my grandfather. And I can tell you that nowadays it is also hard for me and also Zohara to call little Yuval by the name of our son. Don't mention the fact that they are so much alike. So no doubt that it's a huge load, a huge cargo on your shoulders, but on the other hand, it shows you the way all the time. As a child and a grown-up person, I remember myself having conversation with my grandfather, the dead one, and trying to understand what would be the right path to take. Right now, I'm speaking with Yuval about it. And I think that since Yuval was killed, I'm talking to him and not with my grandfather, but both of them for sure showed me the right way to follow.
Thank you. Fascinating. And Zohara, of course, you also grew up with a heavy load, a heavy cargo, as Moshe put it.
Yes, for me, it was a little bit different than Moshe because I was named after Zohara Livyatov, which, as we said, was killed as a pilot in Jerusalem just before the state of Israel was announced. I didn't know her. I didn't know her family, but from the first year that I could ask my parents why they called me after her, I got to know her, and she was it was very fascinating for me to learn about her, to read books about her, to read her letters, to know everything I could about her. And I think that's a very special and unique way to remember someone who died. Even if you don't know his family, it gives you a special way of your life. I know that there was a street in Jerusalem called after her, and I used to walk through that street as many times as I could, even if it wasn't the shortest way I had to take, just to see her name, and it made me feel close to her. So it was also special for me until today. Every time that somebody asks me why are you called like this, and I remind her name. So I think that's a very good way to remember someone.
Thank you. Thank you. I think maybe we have time for one other question. We, of course, are still in lockdown in the UK, and things are a little different in Israel. I think things are lifting a little bit, as I hear. How will you be able to acknowledge Yom HaZikaron without the usual ceremonies, without the visits to the graveside or Yuval's Andarta?
It's very different for us this year. I mean, this is the 6th year that Yuval is not with us, and every year Yom HaZikaron was at our Har Herzl, very crowded, tens of thousands of people, no air, but you feel very hugged and very supported, even physically. And after Har Herzl, we used to come home, and lots of people that wants to feel close to us or to Yuval, family and friends, used to come to our house, and it was a good time to sit, to hear from people, to tell stories about Yuval. And it was a very special day for us. So I think that for us, it's different. I mean, it's different that you don't have the hug of the people, the hug of your family and your friends. But I think in another way, it gave us the opportunity to speak about Yuval in different way that we're not used to. And we had a few Zoom sessions yesterday and today, and also the opportunity that you gave us to speak to you. So it's still a special day for us. It's still a day that is special for Yuval, for the memory of Yuval, but through another medium, not the medium that we are used to every year.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much. I mean, you say we've given you the opportunity. You've given us a huge honor to share your time. It's late in Israel in the evening on a difficult day. So thank you very, very much. I think it's appropriate to close at this point. So just thanks again for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we do move on, it's been suggested by some of you that that you might want to pay a personal tribute to Yuval on your next visit to Israel. If that is the case, and if you want to know how to do that or where to visit, such as Yuval's personal monument or andata, then please get in touch with UJIA office and we'll be able to let you know the details. I would now like to introduce Chazan Tzvi Weiss. Chazan Weiss did not think it sufficient to join us from his home this evening, although of course Dayenu. So I'm delighted to tell you that he opened up the great synagogue in Jerusalem especially for us. He will now lead us in El Malei Rachmim and the Yiska prayer.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you to all those in the UK for joining Israel on this special day. I welcome you all to the Jerusalem Great Synagogue. תפילת היזכור. יזכור עם ישראל את בניו ובנותיו הנאמנים והאמיצים, חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל וכל לוחמי המחתרות וחטיבות הלוחמים במערכות העם, ואנשי קהילות המודיעין, הביטחון, המשטרה ושירות בתי הסוהר, אשר חירפו נפשם במלחמה על תקומת ישראל. וכל מי שנרצחו בארץ ומחוצה לה בידי מרצחים מארגוני הטרור. יזכור ישראל ויתברך בזרעו ויאבל על זיו העולמים. וחמדת הגבורה וקדושת הרצון ומסירות הנפש של הנספים במערכה הכבדה יהיו חללי מערכות ישראל, עטורי הניצחון, חתומים בלב ישראל לדור דור. שירותי בתי הסוהר, שירותי הביטחון והמודיעין וכוחות ההצלה, ושנפלו
Thank you, Chazan Weiss. That was truly incredible. Now, I do believe we've had some very supportive comments posted on the live chat in response to the time that Moshe and Zohara spent with us this evening. So thanks again to them, and of course for you for your comments and for the questions that you posted. To close this evening's Tekes, I would like to introduce UJIA trustee and Manchester chair, Nikki Wertheim.
Thank you, Ben. And Chazan Weiss and Saha, and a big thank you to Zohara and Moshe for attending tonight and sharing Yuval's story with us. On behalf of the UJIA, I would also like to thank all of you who have joined us on Facebook and on YouTube and shown your respect to the Hyman family and to Yom HaZikaron. We all pray for the day when these sacrifices are no longer necessary, when Israel's existence will not be a matter of doubt, and when our history, the history of the Jewish people, will not be questioned. Until that day, we will protect the memory of those who have fallen in battle or killed by terrorists. In these unprecedented times when the world faces a crisis the majority of us have never seen or experienced, and please, well, we never will experience again, I would like to end with a message of hope. Same as Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, which literally means hope. We must have hope within our families, our communities, and our peoples. As Moshe and Zohara spoke about responsibility, we too should remember Kol Yisrael Aruvim Ze Lezeh. All Jews are responsible for each other. The strength of the Jewish people lies in our ability to stand together to be one nation. We, here in the UK, cry with Israel on Yom HaZikaron, and share the joy and festivities on Yom HaTzmaut. We share the hope as it is written in Hatikvah. Our hope is not yet lost. The 2,000-year-old hope to be a free nation in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. For more information on the other programming available online from across the community over the next few days of Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaut, please visit www.ujia.org/YOMS. This URL will hopefully be on your screens at the end of this event. So I finish by saying thank you for being with us tonight. And as we draw our ceremony to a close, please join in now as we sing Hatikvah and the British national anthem in our own homes, led by Benji Salomon in his. Good night, keep safe, and keep well. Our own homes, led by Benji Salomon in his. Good night, keep safe, and keep well.
Kolot balevav panima nefesh Yehudi homiya Fatem Mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od love tikvatenu atikva bat shnot alpayim liotam choshi be'atzenu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim liotam choshi